Trying to see why the chat thing isn't working, so we will just give it a second. Maybe it's because it's, yeah, I think it's because it's scheduled. Alrighty. I'm going to, there we go. Perfect. Alrighty. And we're looking, I'm just checking to make sure everything's running smoothly, and it is. Okay. Perfect. So again, when you're watching this, a lot of times you're probably going to have to force the HD on the video if, sometimes it goes down to 360 and you can't really watch these types of videos with low res just because the text you can't read it, so it's sort of pointless. So yeah, if you're having bad quality, you might want to just go in and go to that little gear and select quality as 1080p if you can, or 720 if that's the best you can do. Either or, doesn't really matter. So I wanted to get on a little bit earlier today, so I'm glad we have some people coming out, and please feel free to use the live chat. That's sort of the whole purpose of doing a live stream. Otherwise, we could just record this stuff and I'll upload to YouTube. So the live stream is sort of the way it is with the chat and all that. That's what we want to be doing. So yeah, feel free to talk in there. I'll keep an eye on it. Last time, I don't know how many people have been watching all the videos here, but we've been working on a project, very early stage here, working on it for just the hub application for Alias Nerd. It's going to showcase all the projects we do. It's going to showcase the videos, like the live stream and the archive videos. It's going to be a spot to communicate things for future projects that we can collaborate on. So I want to do a bunch of stuff, but this is the first. So to start off that application, we worked on yesterday, I believe, we worked on creating a projects model. And actually, we've done that the last two days. We did the projects model and we wrote some tests for it. So everything, we could actually start guard here just to get it up and running. And you can see that it'll run these tests. Everything should pass. What else did we do? Oh, we started with Bootstrap yesterday and we styled up what did we style? The form we did, and I don't think we did too much else. So we did that. All our tests passed. Good. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about is go into here. I did figure out the GitHub thing. So git remote -v. Okay, so I switched over. The problem with I haven't used GitHub in a while, and it used to be SSH was the way to do GitHub. And then HTTPS was also just an alternative. But everything on their website is sort of switched over to recommending HTTPS as the way to communicate. And in order to do that, you have to sort of log in every single request. And SSH, which I have already set up with this computer, where you have an SSH key and then you give GitHub that key and it communicates through that. Yeah, you got to set up your origin to utilize the SSH, not the HTTPS. So I went through and I did that. I realized what the issue was, so I fixed all that, so that should be working now. Another thing I want to talk to you about, because I keep forgetting you guys have really not too much experience with Rails, more Python and other languages. So I want to talk about the Rails console. So we've been coding in Rails, the framework, and we've used the Rails server to bring up a local host version of our application. But there's also this thing called Rails console, so you could spell it out or just do Rails C and hit enter. And what it's going to do is go into this development environment. It's called IRB, and interactive Ruby environment, which comes with Ruby, but Rails utilizes it to access all the Rails things. So it actually starts up Rails, your web application, and allows you to access it through interactive Ruby. So what we can do here is we have a projects model, right? So I can say projects project.all. So the project model, and I want to look at them all. It'll go through and it'll get out of the database and say, okay, here's all of the projects you have. I currently only have one, so I could do something like project equals project.first and enter, and it's going to go and grab the first one. And now I can do like project, I can have that variable and I can access the different parameters. So I can say, what's the name? And it'll say the name is, well, name. That's what we set it up to, but we can say project.description, because that's another field on there, and it says that that's that. And we can go ahead and change the project name, because that's sort of a crappy name, to, well, let's change it to something. So we'll say equals, and what should we change it to? I think we had test app before, so we'll go back to that. And it says there's test app. But you see it's just sort of, just like in the Python interactive or terminal, it'll just spit back what the response is to whatever whatever you gave it. And in this case, it's saying, okay, I've changed it to test app. That's fine. So I can go project.name, and it's test app. Now, the problem is this is an object that's existing right now in the interactive shell. It's not, it hasn't been saved to the database. So if I went and fetched the first project again, the name would be reverted back to name, right? Because we didn't actually save it. So in order to save, we can actually do that from here and just hit save, project.save, and it just saves everything and puts it up into the database. You can see that little SQL string there. And now I could do this whole thing again. So p equals project.first, the first thing, and then p.name is test app. So that's what's in the database currently for the actual project. So this was a really quick example of what you could do with the interactive Ruby, but you can pretty much do anything that you're going to be coding on your server side. You can just test and run through here, and you can hit the database real easy. You can pull things in. You can run queries really quickly, and it's actually a really handy way. We're probably going to use it in the future of being able to set things as the web app owner. I can go into the production server and tweak things on the fly. Like if say I have a user and I want them to be admin, I could do it myself without having it actually built into the app at all. I can just go in and update a parameter that says, is this person an admin? Yes, it is. So you could do neat things like that. Obviously, you might want to build those things into the web app, but you can also do it right from a terminal. So really, really cool. I want to make sure I showed that before we got too far in, just because there's a lot of stuff that you can do, and I want to make sure I show you guys. So I'm just going to exit out of the interactive Ruby and clear out of there. And I think I have, that's guard running. So I'll just start up a Rails server. So we have that running. And then, oh yeah, it helps if you spell everything right. So we will do this. Wait for it. Alrighty, and then we will open up a brand new tab here for working in our Vim. Yeah, I'll just, and now I'll do pump it here, and we're in our app. Alright, so I want to start working on the look of the front page. So it's going to be in the views. So we go app, views, and we'll start off quick with a layout, and we'll get probably the header set up. Just 1 second, just the text came in. Okay. Alrighty, so let's jump over to first. We'll take a look at what everything looks like. So we have localhost /3000, not slash. We'll see what this looks like, and we'll just see how we're going to be changing it. So remember, if you guys have any questions or anything, just feel free to write it in the chat, and I'll answer stuff for you. That's sort of the whole thing here. So we have this boring looking front page, and we want to really jazz this up. So the first thing I want to jazz up is the top, the header. So, and we may have some nav in there, but for now we'll just do the header. And to do that, I'm going to jump over to here, Bootstrap. So not only under CSS, there's like the normal CSS styling that we can access. It also has components, so things all put together for us. So we can go over and look at navbar, and we can see there's these navbar examples. These are pretty intense, but you can see if there's any that sort of speak to me here. So we have navbar right. Just looking, I sort of wanted something so the navbar. Fit to bottom, fit to top, or fix to top. I guess I'll just pick a normal one. It's not really that important. And we'll pick this one, the big one. And hopefully this works with copy pasting, because I do have issues with that sometimes. So what we're going to do here is actually open up a brand new file. So we're going to do app, views, and then we'll create a shared folder. And we'll create a nav partial. Now a partial is sort of a smaller template, a view template that we can use in the main view templates. So a partial, we've looked at one before when we looked at the form. That was a partial. That was, you could use that form in other templates. And the way that you name a partial in Rails is you start with an underscore. So we're going to do underscore navbar dot html because it's HTML file, but also we're using a templating system called ERB. So .erb, and we'll hit enter and open that up. And I'm just going to paste in the code that I got from the website, and I will select it all and then format it. Okay, so I'm going to save this so it saves the file. Well, not quite save. I think it's saved. Cannot open file for writing. All right, let's jump over here and refresh this. Okay, so it's not creating the shared thing, so we probably have to do that manually. So I'm going to go cd app views. I'm just going to check out if it's there. ls. No, it's not. So make directory shared and ls that. Okay, so it's there now. And let's go back into here. We'll open that up. Nothing there. See what happens if we write this. Refresh, and there it is. Okay, so we just needed to make that directory. Yeah, so we have this underscore navbar. This is the shared partial. And I'm going to go in and just double check so everything looks good. We don't want, okay, that's for the toggling the menu. So I probably don't want some of this stuff. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out. I'm just going to look at what it looks like to see what I can get rid of here. Here it is. So we got link, drop down in the search. That's what I want to get rid of. So link, drop down in the search. So I got this. I believe that drop down. I believe this is the search. Okay, now where is the, oh, there's the brand up top there. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this and delete this. So all I'm going to be left with is the navigation links on the right hand side and then the brand logo thing on the right hand side. So I'm going to save this. And then what we're going to do is I'll open up split view or vertical split. And then we will open up the actual application.html. And in here, above the container, I'm going to add a a little bit of Ruby code. I'm going to say, whoops, I want it, you put the equal sign to actually have it just, include some content into the page. Without the equal sign, it would just run the Ruby code, like if you're doing if statements or conditionals or like looping through things. But if you want to actually have it print or include something into the HTML file, then you put the equal sign. And we're going to say render partial. And the partial is going to be in the shared folder, and it's going to be the nav bar. And then I'm going to close that off with the percent sign and then the closing bracket. So let me just see, render partial shared nav bar. So you notice how the naming is. You say the path from the views folder. In this case, it's the shared directory. And then navbar is just the name of the file, and it knows enough to go through and find the file that has navbar in it, and it's good to go. So I'm just going to save this, and then we should be able to go into our Firefox here and refresh and see what happened. Okay, so you can see along the top here we have a navbar, just like it was on the Bootstrap website. We have the brand here that is a link to the home screen. We have a link here and a drop-down, and the drop-down works because I've included the JavaScript files, which we did in the last video. If you do this same step and the drop-down does not work, it means that you're missing some of the JavaScript stuff, and you just have to go and add that. You can either look at the GitHub website for Bootstrap -SAS, or you can look at my last video I made where we included it. So that's how that all looks good, and we can change that brand to be our actual brand here. So go in here and edit that quick. So it's going to be edited in the navbar file, and this way we can break up files. Like, see how this works? The actual main application layout is still pretty small. We only added one line of code, and we broke out this massive navigation section of the template into its own file, so it's very manageable. So if we want something to do with the header, we just go over to this navbar file and deal with it there. So I'm just going to go over here and change out this to alias nerd. Now obviously we can go in and change some of the CSS stuff here in the future when we want to tweak things. But for now, I think if we just refresh this, it's going to update that, and it looks good. The next thing I want to do, once that gets, there we go. Next thing I want to do is create our visual columns, not visual, but our structural columns in the layout. So I can have 2 rows or 2 columns of projects going down in little boxes. So I'm going to work on that next. So we're just going to jump over to the Bootstrap website here. And we'll look at, this would be just a plain old CSS thing. So go to the top here, CSS, and the grid system. So I know this is very easy to do, but I'll just show you where it is in the documentation so you guys know if you ever want to do it. So the way you're going to do, these are examples of different grids. So the way you're going to do it is you're going to have an outer div that's called a row, and each one of these is a row. So anytime you can break up your application into different columns dependent or directly related to a row. So in this case, there's all those little columns. In this row, there's only the 2 columns. In this row, there's 3 columns. So you can break your application up like that, no big deal. So once you have your row div, inside you create your columns with divs as well. So you just add a class saying col, meaning column, and the MD stands for medium. And this means that on medium display sizes, this counts as 1/12 of the screen width. So of your actual, because we've made our screen width have a container of, like, I can't remember, 1170 pixels. So it's 1/12 of that. And it's 1/12 because the standard up here, it talks about the standard column is a 12 column layout. Now you can change this if you want, but it's very standard and it actually works really well. So this number is out of 12. So you always got to remember that. You got to do a little bit of math. Like, look down here. Well, here, it's one width and there's 12 of them to make up the whole width. Here there's a width of 8 and a width of 4. Take those together, they equal 12. This one, if you want 3 columns, it's 4, 4, and 4. Add those together and it's 12. And this one, if you want 2 columns, it's 6 and 6, and so on, right? And you can see how that works out. So if you want to divide the screen in half, which is sort of like what we're going to be doing, we do the column 6. Now, you can change this MD, so what happens is if it goes below a medium-sized screen, meaning like a tablet or a phone, it's going to not split this up into 2 columns, it's just going to be 1 column at that point. If you wanted the columns to be split up on the very small screens as well, you just change this MD to one of the smaller sizes. It's either SM for small or XS for extra small. And that just means that you can do these columns down to that screen size. There is a large as well, LG for a large, and you can do that as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and add this to our application, and we'll do that directly in the projects list template because it's not really a application wide thing. It's more of a specific page thing. So I'm just going to go into here and go into the projects directory, and under the index.html file, this is where we're listing all the stuff out. So I'm going to get rid of this notice because we'll deal with that later. So I'm just going to get rid of this. I can actually get rid of everything here. Yeah, I'll just get rid of everything. We'll talk about doing this another time. So I'll just delete it all. And then what we're going to do is add in a div class of row, because remember we have to start off wrapping everything in row. And then we will give ourselves div. Okay, so that will just close that off. Now we're going to give ourselves 2 columns. So div, whoops, div class, and I want the columns to go down to small. We can always change this later, but column small 6. So if it's on an extra small screen, which is a phone, it'll be 1 column. But anything bigger than that, like a tablet and up, like a laptop or a computer, it's going to be 2 columns. So this is the responsive part of Bootstrap and why it's so popular. So we do this, and then we can close that off, and then create another one. Yank that down to here, and there we go. So we have our 2 columns. So I can just go in here and say column 1 and column 2. This is just for illustrative purposes, and we'll save that, and we'll jump over to Firefox and load that up and see what happened. So another thing too that I'm not 100% on is this nav bar. I like how the actual background goes the full width, but I'm not the biggest fan on the links going the full way, but maybe actually it doesn't look too bad now. We'll see. We can always change this later on. So anyways, we have a column 1 and a column 2. So if you just go and inspect it, you can see that Bootstrap created the columns for us as well as all the padding that it really works. So we have a container, we have our row, so you can see the row, and then we have inside of there we have the first column, and you can see the padding on that. It's those little purple things on the either end. And then is it padding? No, it's margin. So and then on the other one is the other column. They both have margins, right? So works out perfectly. So what we're going to do is fill this up with our little projects that we're going to have. Another thing I wanted to do is, let's close this, and I wanted to have a title in here. So we'll have like an H1 tag. And again, all this stuff we're going to probably style to be the way we want it, but just to start our layout, we're going to say projects we've built. Something along those lines. And yeah, that looks good. Actually, we won't say projects because that's like, what we'll do is we'll say, let me just think here. Okay, yeah, instead of this, we're going to do, well, And we'll say, what should we say? Things we've made. I like that. I've seen that somewhere else and I like it. Things we've made, 2 columns. Save that. Yeah, I like it. Now let's look at what we can. Each one of these columns is going to have a project in it. Now let me think here. Yeah, this is probably going to be different because that's how it works now. But what we want to happen is we want to cycle through all of the projects that we have. We have an array of projects, right, that we're getting from the database. And we want to say for every project, create one of these things. So we're going to, yeah, and okay, yeah, so we're probably going to end up doing it like this. We're going to get rid of this one. And we're going to say up in here, we can do at projects.each project. I think we actually put the do here. Do project. And then down here, we will do, let's do this. We'll just end it here. Okay. Alrighty, save that quick. And then we have, in here we can have some information. So just to test this out, let's do, let's print to the screen using the =, the project.name. We'll spell it right. And then close that off. So it's going to create all these columns, and it'll create these little divs separated into column widths, and each one of those little divs is going to have a project name in it. So this is just strictly to test out that our idea is working, and I'm going to go through and see what happens. Okay, so we only have one one. Oh my God! So we only have one project, so it's not really doing anything for us. We don't have a list of things. So let's go ahead and add a bunch more. So we'll do project 2. Let's do this, a bunch of them. So that was created. Oh, there's the second one. So we'll do one more just to see that it comes down and does another column. So we'll do test project 3. This is a project. There we go. And test. And we'll go back and see what happened. So there you go. So we have the first one, then we have the second one, then we have the third one. So you can see how it's jumping back and forth in 2 columns. And we accomplish that with this little bit of code right here. That's sort of messy, but it just says for each project that we pass along, give that a variable name project, or we could have said P or whatever. This is sort of like a variable name. And then inside this loop, we can do something with that project. In this case, we created a div with a column size of 6, and we, meaning half of the width. And then we just said print the project name. And then we ended the div, and then we ended our loop. So that's pretty much everything we did there, and it gave us that really cool thing. So next, what we want to do here is probably style this up so it looks a little bit nicer. So let's go over to Bootstrap and see what we got here. So I'm going to go to the top and see components, and I think I know something that will work for us. We'll just give it a try. Thanks everyone for subscribing. Yeah, if you are interested in this stuff, just subscribe and you'll get notifications when I go online. So thank you very much, Adam and Kata, I believe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but thanks for subscribing. Let's go through and check this out. Okay, so we're in the components here. And yeah, like if you guys have any questions, please feel free to chat it up there and I'll try and answer anything. or you have any suggestions or anything. Like if you want to see me do something different with the look of this and try something, I'll try whatever you think. If you have some ideas or something, so keep that in mind. But I'm thinking panels here because, like, look at it, it's just a nice little border around there. There's a slight shadow, I think, that's built into the CSS. We can do it with some sort of a heading, and there's options for having a footer or a colored way of doing it. But I'm liking the plain white and with the very simple gray border, a little radius on the corners, and that's how you do it. So the way that this works is um, you just add these divs. So there's the outer div is the panel in the panel default, and it's panel default because it is the plain style. If you go down here, you'll probably see this is panel primary, gives it the color, and it's very similar to how buttons work. So buttons, you have BTN for button, and then you go BTN dash default or BTN dash primary or success or info. So they're all sort of styled or named the same way. Um, so Douglas just asked, since I'm asking you guys to ask questions and someone has asked, so Douglas asked if we're starting to do tuts like this on Django. Now, years ago when I did code in Python a lot, before I started Ruby on Rails, I started on Django and I debated on actually have a project in Udemy half started uh, for Django. But the problem is it kept changing a lot and it started getting bloated and I stopped liking working with the Django, and I don't know, I just sort of moved off of it. I just never really kept up with it. And Rails is just so much easier and fun to code on that I like doing it a lot better. So I'm probably not going to do anything with Django. I just don't see the point. Like I can get jobs coding on, like I just do this on the side, but I can get jobs and put up a real professional product in a real short span of time using Ruby on Rails, where Django it took a lot longer. So I like what I'm doing now a lot better. So probably not, Douglas, and I'm sorry. I know a lot of you guys love Python, but keep in mind, once you learn a language, you can do, just because I'm doing it here with Ruby on Rails, doesn't mean you can't do pretty much the exact same thing with Django or even port the code that we're doing here over to there as an experiment, because it's the same types of things that we're doing. We're dealing with the CRUD actions. It's a web app, right? You have your get, your post, your put, your delete. All those things are the same, and it's just how you structure your code to work with that. So a lot of the stuff we're doing here and a lot of the way things are looking and a lot of the way that we're dealing with the database is the same. Like you could use Postgres database and you could do all kind of stuff. So yeah, if you wanted to tackle that, then you can. But I probably won't just because I like spending a lot of my time on Rails here, and I think that if you guys want to contribute and learn Rails, then it's a really cool thing to learn. It's a really high-paying field. If you did want to do this professionally, get a job working for a company that and build Rails stuff. It's in demand. It's really if you say it's easier, I take your word for it. Okay, yeah, I think it is personally. I do, but to each his own. Nothing wrong with Python at all. Like I said, I love Python, but do whatever you're comfortable with. It's all the same type of stuff. Web apps look the same on the outside, right? You go to a website, you don't know what it's built with. It could be built with anything. So let's get back to styling this up. I'm just going to do this quickly, but thanks for the question, and yeah, definitely keep it up. Keep asking questions. So we're going to, what are we doing here? Not doing a header, we're just doing this. So all we need is the outer panel, and it gives the default just gives it the well, in this case, no color, but that's what specifies what color to do. And the panel body is the middle section, the open section, and you can add things like panel heading divs for the top or panel footing for the bottom. Maybe it's panel panel footer. Okay. So, but we're not doing that, so we just need these two. So I'm just going to copy them over, and let's add this into our project thing. So I bet we could have added it to this outer div, but I'm going to keep it separate for now just because it's a little cleaner. So, and then we'll just add the two remaining divs. Okay. We'll go down, space that out. So now we have this panel default and this panel body, and I'm going to save that. And you can see the power of Bootstrap. It's pretty amazing. We can go through and just add those two lines of code directly cut and paste from the website And watch how much nicer this application is going to look just from doing that one thing. Yeah, so see, there we go. So the projects are already looking a lot better. I love the comment about like Node.js. This we're using Node.js here to run the JavaScript as a JavaScript engine, but Node.js is becoming very popular. Obviously, it's really quite a nice thing. I personally don't know if I'd enjoy as much coding in JavaScript. I know you can do a lot with it and it's really powerful, but I don't think I'd enjoy it as much, and that's the whole thing. Why would I only want to code and enjoy what I'm doing, so that's probably why I might try Node.js. I tried Angular, which is different than Node.js obviously, but I tried Angular, it's JavaScript framework, and I just never it never caught on, right? For me anyways. A lot of people love it. Um, uh, yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying. Uh, T Hill could always play with both and see which one you prefer. Yeah, like I played with most of this stuff. I've coded on a lot of different things, and I always go off like how I feel when I code if I'm really enjoying myself. I find coding can be very frustrating. It can be very frustrating on every language, but some languages you get frustrated and you don't enjoy it. So I prefer not to code with those languages. Other people love those types of languages. It's sort of a personal thing. So whichever one fits with you personally, stick with that, definitely. So here we go, we've started this. I think there is something, I want to center the text up, definitely. So I think there is a shortcut for that. If I go up to the top and go to CSS, I think they have these helpers, helper classes. I wonder if there is. So we can color the text, that's cool. Background on that stuff, that's cool. The floating center block. Set an element to display block and then center via margin. Yeah, that's for actually centering a div block. There's clear fix, show hides, and then that's the screen reader. I don't think there's, actually there's text center topography or typography probably has alignment classes. There we go, text center. I knew it had that. All right, so let's go through and add this to the outer panel. We could just add it to the body, but I think everything in this panel will be centered, so I'm just going to like add it there. And then we're going to go through and make this H3, which is the third header size. What are we doing here? Okay, then I'll just H3. And then what we want to do is a paragraph tag for the project dot description. Yeah, C and C++, yeah. Yeah, memory management is the worst thing to have to deal with. So that's why I love Python and Ruby. It's just like, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to think too hard. You just sort of have fun coding. So, close, oh, not A. Alrighty. And I'm also going to have the links down here. So what I can do is we can nest another div class row in here. And I can actually, whoops, split this off into class, column, probably medium. Oh no, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess small would still work. And then what I'm going to do here is create the links. So I'm going to do equals. So there's we have these really cool handy helpers in ERB for creating links and doing it and tying it directly into our Rails app. So we can do a link to, and we say what we want the link name to be. So we can say edit. And then we give it a path, and we have access to the routes that we created, our routes file. We have access to those routes using this naming convention of edit underscore project underscore path. And then we can add some classes to this. And in this case, I'm not going to add any class. I'm just going to end it there. and end off the div, right? And then there's the delete. Um, whoops, undo that. We'll yank this, and then actually there's the show. We'll just do a show one right now. So we'll change the word and we'll say show. And this one is, actually I forgot something on that path down there. So we just say project. And the edit also needs to know what project we're editing. So I'm going to include that, project. And that'll create the URL for us automatically, and it'll create the HTML tags for the A wrapper, the anchor wrapper, and do everything we need it to do. So I'm pretty sure that should be everything I wanted there, and I'm just going to test to see what this looks like. So this should center the text, give us the description, and 2 links at the bottom. So we'll try that out. Now I'm not 100% on the size of these things right now, but we'll see. Yeah, there you go. So we have our header, we have our little description here. Obviously our apps will have larger descriptions, and we have some text there. So we have like the show page. Yep, so that worked. We can go back, and we have our edit page. Yeah, and so all those links worked, and you can see what that link to did. I'll just inspect the element here, and I'll show you what it's doing. So we'll go into here, go into, oh, there it is. So it just creates the anchor tag, and it sets the H reference, the hyper reference to project/1. And then now we could have this have the root path like all the way back to the domain if we use, instead of doing like projects_path, we can do projects_URL, and that's going to give us the whole thing. Instead of just a relative path, it gives us the entire path. So we have options there on how we want that to be handled. And then it set the show text for whatever the link is, and then closed up the anchor. And we can turn this into a button if we wanted. Or we can make it like a small button, but I think I like it the way it is, but I'll just show you this just for kicks. So we can add a class to this link to function, and we just give the class a button and then a button small and end it off there. And then we will go back here and show you what that looks like. But I like the links, that for now I do anyways. Wait for this to reload. Alrighty, I'm just trying to think of what else to, I'm probably going to center this thing up right here. No, did I not do it? Or did I not save it? No, I saved because the test ran. Huh. Let's see what happened there. I was on a roll today. Button small, class. Do I also need the button default in there? I didn't think I did, but probably I do. So insert button default. Oh my god. Come on, fingers. There we go. Obviously I could really improve my my Vim skills, but I'm so lazy. I just like smashing keys. Okay, so we'll try this button default. This should work. I didn't think you had to specify the actual color styling of it. I thought it just automatically did there. No, so you did need to do that. So there you go. There's one with the button, a link with the button. This is freezing up here. Yeah, there's one with the button, and then there's just a standard link. So the button's actually pretty cool. We could go back into here and say, we could break this up into, how would we do it? Well, all right, I'm in insert there. How many columns? So we could do 3. Okay, and then we'll go down here and just change this to 3. and then we can copy these down and turn this over to, oh, we'll do it up here. We'll say website, and then we'll say GitHub, and then change forwards, and we'll say project.github link. And obviously, if you're going to be doing this, this sort of leads into why validation is very important. So obviously, if we want to use the GitHub link in our actual anchor tag, it has to be an actual website link, right? And the problem is we are relying on the user to give us this link, and they could put anything they want in that field. So what we need to do is validate that it's an actual link, right? So that's why, whoops, what the heck? So that's why validations are important. Obviously, we haven't done that yet, so I'm not saying that this is already doing that, but we will need to do that. So we will do project.web link, I believe I called it. And we'll save that and just see what happens here. Yeah, I love that, T-Hill. Agreed. I like the idea of Java, just not the day-to-day reality. I know when you hear about Java, you're like, man, this is great. Like I read when I first started coding in Java 12 years ago. I did it because of Google WebKit, I believe it's called, or something like that. I started coding in Java, and I thought, man, this is awesome. I read all these books on it and looked it up on the internet, and it was great. But then after spending months coding with it, you're just like, oh, I'm just really not having that much fun. So frustrating. So anyways, uh, yeah, so we have the buttons here, but we have like the website. Oh, see, hmm, I've never actually done this, so this is something I'm gonna have to look up. Um, I'll click on it to show you, but what it does is it tags the URL onto the back end of the domain. So it's like, oh, we don't have any routes. So it shows you like these are the routes that are set up, and here's this little handy helper that you can use, like projects path or note new project edit project path, all that kind of stuff. So these are the ones that we have access to, and what it's saying is this /test.com is not that. So I'm going to see. Let's just go in and research this because I've never actually done it before. So I've never linked out to another website. So if you ever run into a situation where you want to figure out how to do something, I just go over to Google and say Rails link to external URL. So it looks like someone else has searched that before, obviously. So how do I define a variable link to an external URL? There's the good old Stack Overflow will probably have our answer. And yeah, see, this is exactly what's happening with us. See, it says localhost, and it's like, boom, tacks that onto the end, which is not what we want. So it's probably very, very simple. Let's go down to the answer. So it wants us to actually add the HTTP there, or maybe add a full URL method that does that for us. So this one got the most upvotes, but is there a better way? Target blank link, your link with HTTP. Okay, so there is probably what we want to do. There's two ways of doing this. So what it requires for it to not tack it on to the end of your domain is the HTTP ://. So there's two ways. We could either have it do it like they're doing it here. You add it in the view. So you're saying add that in and then stick in the URL. The other way, which I don't know, just feels better to me, is to do it on the server side. So when they give you the URL address, we can check, is there an HTTP at the beginning of it? And if not, then add it in like for the actual database, saving it to the database, we'll have it added in ourselves. The top answer doesn't account for SSL. Yeah, this one for sure. That's why I'm wondering. Like I was thinking that when I was talking the SSL. So if See, I was thinking, well, we'll probably just have it not do SSL because GitHub doesn't require SSL for linking to a project. And all of this stuff is our own anyways. Like the public aren't going to be creating projects. We're going to be creating the projects for other people to access. So I don't think SSL necessarily is needed. That's why I think, yeah, the top one sucks for that. So my other way of doing it is, I think this answer, yeah, your link with HTTP. And in order to do that, we'd have to check at validation stage if the HTTP is there, and if it's not, add it ourselves. And then we could add in the SSL if we wanted to in the actual form field. So let's just see what else is here. You can do something like this, URL for. Um, yeah, yeah. See, this is similar to how things are done in, yeah, I've used this quite a bit. Is this Python or Ruby that I used it in? I can't remember, but the URL for might work. So let's do that. It's like experiment in the Rails console. So I was showing you that earlier. So let's just have fun with that real quick. And we'll see what it does. So Rails C. And so we can do something like URL for, and then we don't even need that bracket. We can just say, oh, we need a project first. So P equals project dot first. So we got that. So now we can do URL for P dot web link. Let's see what it does for us. We need to say web. And URL4 is not defined. So why is it saying that it isn't here? I know I've used it before, but maybe that was Python. Yeah, the href site, the problem, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. We could hard code in the HTML, which is sort of happens quite a bit. The issue is that I like to use the link to the Ruby stuff, so well no, ERB just accesses straight Ruby. It's just allowing you to write straight Ruby in there. So what is this saying in here? You can experiment with the Rails URL for. Yeah, I don't see URL for here. Well, it linked to this page, but it's not even current page, link to if, link to unless, mail to. Does it talk about it here? Maybe this is why this isn't the number one answer. I don't see URL for anywhere in here. No. Like, who said it? T Hill. Yeah, you're right. Like a lot of the stuff we do just hard code in HTML, but I was hoping that I could just do it like this. And I probably will do the validation for the HTTP during the form submission because it would sort of suck if we hard code that in as an href without it and then they put it in. I don't know. It could get screwy there, so you want to have as much control as you can when you're allowing them to insert code into your template. So we probably do it in validation stage. But I just want to jump back. It's so funny. Um, go. He pretty much said that you need to add HTTP to it. So here is an example of what you can do with the. This is a helper, but this is essentially. Maybe we do it a little cleaner. I don't know. We'll see. So it's just saying like you take your link and you say, does link include HTTP? If it does, then just puts means like send it over. Um, Send over the link. Else insert that into the beginning of the string and then send it over. So, and then yeah, then you could use these are just helpers where you can create your own little methods inside of free just for your views to use. So view helpers are great for that. This you can do this really handy thing there. Um, Now I don't know actually. Like maybe I don't know if we should do that in the view or if we should do it in the validation. But I'm not worried about it now because I'm not going to do it right now. Oh, this won't work for links other than protocols such as HTTPS, FTP. Yeah. So we'd have to do more of a robust thing at the server side, I think. That's probably what we're going to end up doing. Same with like Spotify and maybe the SSH with the GitHub stuff. Yeah, so we'll just do it server side. It makes way more sense. We can be much more robust with it. So cool, we ran into that little thing. I like that. So let's go ahead and see if we can get that working. So I'm just going to code up here. So we'll exit out of this. And there we go. So for now, we'll just insert HTTP. Actually, I don't even want to do that. We're going to be doing it on the server side. So what we'll end up doing is, whoops, not that, not that. We're going to do this. Edit. HTTP. We'll save them. Yeah, helper functions are for views. So action view is the controller for all the views. So yes, it's specifically, I'm pretty sure it's specifically for views. We don't have to do it inside of a helper file. We can do it inside of our controller and then just give the views access to that method. There are ways of doing that too. So there's a lot of different ways we can write that function. But I really do think that in order for that function to work properly, it would have to be pretty robust. Like it would have to check for every scenario, like HTTP : / and then it would have to do TTPS, have to be FTP, have to do like GitHub dot. So I think that we'll probably end up doing a better way of doing it during validation, where it automatically tacks on something if it's missing. It checks for something, but if it's not there, it'll tack it on. So then we can go back here, and these links should be not fixed. Let me see here. Website. Maybe it's because, oh no, wait, which one did we change this one right here? Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So now it works. Test.com. Perfect. So yeah, the GitHub one, it says test.com, the show is there, and the edit is there. Obviously this doesn't look good right now. We have these buttons and links, but that sort of shows you this is broken up into 4 columns within this box, this little, what do we call it again? Man, my memory. Let's just see. A panel, I think it was called. Panel, yeah. So inside the panel, we have 4 columns for the links. We have our centered text here. This actually I want to have centered as well. So I'm going to go in here into the view and say insert class text center. Save that. And I like the look of this. This is looking good. Just waiting here. I really don't think URL for it is a defined thing. So just to be sure, I'm just going to search Rails URL for. Huh. Maybe it's because I was doing, actually I think I might know. I was trying to, it says undefined method though, so let's just try this one more time because it's sort of bugging me. So p equals project dot first, and then we want project at last. P, because we already fixed that URL, so we want to test it on one that's broken. project.last. Yeah, so that one just has test.com. So then we can do URL for, maybe I needed the actual brackets, which I'm guessing. Web link. Yep, URL for. Do I need to bring it in or something? Maybe I'm just doing this completely wrong, but yeah. So URL4 needs to come from the in action controller. This takes the same options as URL4 in action controller. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe this is specifically for the view class. So I'd have to bring it into the view class. Let's try that. Let's just try it inside the view class instead of messing around here in ERB. Good point. Let's make sure yeah, T-Hill. Let's just try what you said. You probably are right. So we are going to do in here, insert URL for, and then box that off. Try that. Now in here, who was talking about it? Nope. Okay, in here. Here we go. You can experiment in your Rails console. Just type in the console. See this helper. I think we were just missing, we need to actually write that whole line. Let's just see if it worked. Okay, so we got, no, I don't think so. I don't think it worked. We're doing all this for, and it's not even working. Try one more thing. I like the look of it though, like we're coming along, we got this thing centered. Obviously we'll add some margins and stuff and make this look a lot better. But yeah, that's about as far as we need to take the projects for right now. We'll do the show page maybe, but I think next, before we go too much further, we should start doing the user registration and stuff like that and login. And that way we have this so you can view it and all that, but you can't edit, right, or delete. So we'll do that on the next session. We'll do actual users and stuff and logging in and creating accounts. And then once we have that in place, then we can do like an admin can create projects. And then whatever the admin creates will show up here. So I think that would be handy. But before we go today, I'm just going to, whoops, wonder if you can clear, no. Okay, so we're just going to do p equals project.last. And then it wants to do helper dot, is it link to, just double check. Link to URL for. Okay, so we got that in there, so now we'll just say like test. And then it's saying URL for p.weblink. Yeah, see? We did pretty much what he said to do. No, we're missing something here, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about that. Like we said, it doesn't solve our issue. We want to do the server side anyways. So yeah, that's sort of where we ended up today. We went up for about an hour. We created our header here. These links don't go anywhere yet, but this will eventually be our sign in and register page, then our drop down for our account page. That's going to be cool. We have sort of a header here, which I want to space things out, drop this stuff down a bit. and maybe put in like a little blurb. And then we're going to have our projects that show up here one at a time. They go down in 2 columns, which is really cool. We'll have links to the website, the GitHub page, and we'll have a link to show. So probably just 3 columns here. We'll have a link just to show a show page where it goes into more detail. Although, really, there's no need. We don't actually need a show page for these things, right? We'll have like, we don't, because all the information is shown right here. We have the name, the description, the website link, the GitHub link, and that's all we're sort of have for this whole thing. So there's no need for a show page. Yeah, so we'll just have these 2 buttons, the website and the GitHub button on here. And yeah, so then once that's done, that's the pretty much the whole front page, the public side of the website. And then there's going to be there will be pages for screencasts, which is really, really easy to do. It's pretty much the exact same thing we just did here. It's just a scaffold. And now that we've covered a lot of this, it's just a matter of throwing that up, styling the show page for that, because that's for watching the YouTube videos. And then everything else is behind a user wall. Yeah, so you have to log in, and then you can get to the rest of the site. So, and we'll get commit, yes. So little by little. So it's getting there. Obviously this can be done a lot faster if you aren't sitting here talking the whole time, but I know it's going a little bit slow, but you know, an hour a day, it's getting there. It's sort of fun to watch and fun to hang out with you guys. So we will let's see, get into our terminal here, and we will quit this or exit this and git add status. Oh, that doesn't work. So we've only just been working on the one thing. We created the shared, and we worked on the template for the index. So we'll just don't need to split up or anything. We'll just add it all. Git commit. And we'll just add the message updated the project's index. Added update the project index HTML template and added a nav. That's good. So git status on this. Everything looks good. And here we'll see if SSH change worked. So push origin master. And boom, it worked. So there we go. We saved everything to Git, and we pushed it up to GitHub. So if you guys did want to check it out, you can. Just double check this. Boom, boom, GitHub, refresh. What is evening for you, Douglas? Like, what are you? Because it's right now, it's 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for me. I have been doing it at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time for me, which is 4 hours from now. I might even jump on later on tonight to do some, but yeah, it's usually 2 o'clock or 7 o'clock for my time. That's the 2 times I can get on usually. So not too sure. Just if you could just put in there what time and say if it's Eastern Standard or Central or whatever. Just put that in there, Douglas, and I'll see what I can do. But anyways, here's the updated projects index HTML template and added navbar, so it's all up to date. Good, good. And we will close this down. I'm just going to see if Douglas has a response there. Everything's looking good. Everyone else have the, this is a good time for everyone? Hope so. Nothing AWOL. Yeah, so that's sort of my 2 times I've been working so far. Obviously, this will hopefully keep going for a long time, and those times may change because of that. So yeah, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time are typically, I'm going to try and hit one of those 2 times or both in one day. Some days I'm going to be too busy and I can't. Thanks a lot for that, Kata. Kata, sorry. And yeah, so no one else has really anything to say, so I'm going to sign off here, and we will see you maybe this evening, 7 Eastern Standard Time. If not, tomorrow during the day I'm not going to be able to be on because I'm out of town, so it would be an evening if I did jump on. And Friday I should be able to do it at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time again. So that's sort of the week lying ahead, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot for tuning in.